Verden dorje kandoma. I was talking about the key elements that make Vajrayāna practice work on this journey. You tell us the key elements. Through your experience, for example, the meditation practice you just did, all are included. Hopefully, I was trying to integrate everything in there. So hopefully you got some taste of or reminder. What's important? What's element? What's the difference between the sutra and the tantra? What's unique about? What needs to be included in your sadhana practice? Sadhana practice is not just reciting the word and get it done. Although Tibetan tradition sadhana practice called kandon. Kandon means recitation. So as a Western sincere practitioners, we should not take sadhana practice just as a recitation. It's a means for accomplishment of something so meaningful.
Divine pride for sure, generation stage.
Okay, divine pride. So how that works? Why divine pride is an important element and technique in Vajrayāna. Can you tell a little more about that so that we can really remind ourselves how that divine pride or sacred dignity, I translate, works? Do you remember that I was telling a little bit? I'm reminding ourselves the mind shapes reality through imagination and repetition, repetitious imagination. Do you agree? This kind of thing is not about the belief system. Through our experience, we started to recognize, this is true. The mind shapes reality through perception. I mean, in even ordinary, forget about sadhana practice, in a day-to-day basis, really mind shapes everything, right? When we hold our self-identity very tight, then what's going to happen?
I think it's most important thing is to, just as you said, to remind myself again and again. And by reminding myself, I shape this view of myself as the deity. Mm-hmm. By continuing to do so, it becomes something real.
Yeah. Deity as an embodiment of the love, compassion, the purity, and the wisdom. Yeah, wise. So we want to imagine like that. Why it works is that we all have a layers of obscuration, like a coarse obscurations, obvious one, to the subtler one. In the subtle body holds the imprint of negative karma, and so slowly dissolve these old habitual patterns, karmic patterns, and embody the awakened qualities, which we already have internally. But then it's obscured. So by removing these things through active imagination, like a me, not all the me, habitual patterns we created. Instead of that, let go of that through this practice called active sacred imagination, I call it deity yoga. Then we can really let it reveal the true nature, awakened qualities. Embody awakened quality. Then how we can do it, how it works, is the visualization method. Visualization interrupts the habitual identity. Right? At least when we do 35 minutes we practice, during that time, there was no habitual identity there, identification. Like anybody, if we followed my guided meditation, that was sacred. There was no samsaric story. Anybody was thinking about, I am my samsaric story or something? No, I don't think so. You are able to interrupt this habitual, very strong, stubborn identity, especially with the subtle body as well. That is removing this habitual, very stubborn obscuration. That in terms of identity. Then pure perceptions recondition the mind as a sacred level, so then we can view. If we change, then we can change the world that we view. So identification with the deities stabilizes the enlightened qualities within us. That's why this sacred imagination, you as a Vajrayogini, embodiment of wisdom and compassion, works.
There's the principle of starting with the end result as a method to imagine oneself as the deity, or another way to say that is to imagine our own Buddha potential fully manifested is part of the method of sadhana practice.
Yeah, that's also important in relation to this as well, sacred imagination. Our mind, imagination shapes the reality. So we start from there.
I think the lineage blessings.
Lineage blessing. Okay. Yeah, that's also unique, you can say, different from the sutra. Of course, the sutra also has the teacher's lineage, but here in Vajrayāna practice, lineage connection, lineage masters play the significant role. Why is that?
I think it's because we need a direct connection to these enlightened beings to help us to realize true nature quickly through these types of methods, like that kind of heart-to-heart connection, not theoretical or intellectual. Although that's part of it.
Yeah, I know we're gonna talk more about especially devotions. So we need a devotion to make Tantra work. For example, the teacher-student relationship or something. This is not about kind of personal relationship. It's about the generation of the devotion, accelerate the recognition. So it's not a blind faith or blind devotion, but it's the method for escalate the recognitions. His Holiness was asked, do we need a teacher on this journey, on this path or something? Then his answer was, no, not necessarily, but definitely it escalates the process. We need this because we want to get this work done as soon as possible, right? In terms of teacher-students relationship or the guru devotion, so-called, this particular being, you can say, the guru, mirror the students' own enlightened nature. We need something. We need a mirror to look at our own mind. And also provide the transmissions, which has been carried from generation to generation. And again, I'm going to talk more about that in later, but empowerment and the commentary, all these things carry blessings, so-called inspiration. It's very hard to translate blessing, but it's more like an inspired strength, something inspiring. Having somebody who can hold a mirror for us, then looking at, it's so inspiring. Anyway, so those things are important. Enlightened nature.
You know, the value of a teacher is, well, of course, the teacher is exemplifying. And also, like the teacher, for me, you bring out the best in me. And when I say bring out, another way to say that is when I'm receiving your teachings in your presence, I am much more in touch with my own Buddha nature, my own potentiality is much clearer to me. So this notion of blessings, it's not that you're doing something to me. It's not that you're giving me something, but rather in your presence through your exemplification, I have much easier access to the best within me.
Very nice way to talk about this. We have a tendency to solidify this relationship or guru or something like that. Guru is also empty, but this presence, something I'm talking about myself, my teacher's presence, allowed me to open, allowed me to soften, allowed me to be humble. I needed somebody like that. I still need. So now my teacher, physical body is gone, but the teacher lives always here. And he talks to me, criticize kindly, give me advice, correct my wrong view, and also ensure authenticity. It's always like that. So we need somebody like that.
I think there's an aspect of it which is like mystical, like even just doing the Lam Rim prayers here I feel like the holy beings are there, and participating in sadhanas and observing, there's feeling like Vajra Yogini is there.
Yeah, mystical or the extraordinary. We have maybe 23 hours of ordinary life, but then 1 hour of extraordinary life we can live, and then repeat again. So repetition, I can talk more about the importance of repetition. It's not about boring things. And also we can get in touch with nature of mind through sadhana, luminosity, knowing, awareness. As we are talking about, Vajrayāna assumes the enlightened mind is already present within us. The luminous clarity, the subtlest mind, clear light we call, and the empty mind. That is compassionate flavors in it, in tone, compassion. Practice, namely generation and completion stages, practice, they reveal the nature of this. In other words, directly by cutting through coarse perceptions, as we are talking about, on the drawing of a subtle clarity and bliss, bringing a recognition of that clear light mind. Right? When everything dissolves, then we are rested. So that the time really try to recognize, or that might be the wrong phrase, try to recognize. No, allow it to unveil the true you, subtlest mind, called clear light. Yeah, sooner or later you will experience it. Then we are rehearsing right now. See if we can recognize at that point, at the time of death, or in day-to-day life moments. We may have some experience. Then see if we can unite the emptiness and the bliss at that sort of moment. We can get used to it. Then, of course, the view of emptiness is a ground. You remember we started from there. Without this view of emptiness, transformation not going to happen. Emptiness makes a transformation possible. Deities, mandalas, and pure perception arise from the dissolution, like dissolving into emptiness. And from and to. Remember, this is the dance of appearance and emptiness. But not about, emptiness first, then appearance, then again emptiness. Not like that, but this is a dance, like a waves or a union of emptiness and appearances. It's about a dance. So without emptiness, deity would be mere imagination. A lot of people may practice, I visualize Tara or something like that. But then if we don't have a recognition of this emptiness, it's just a kid's play, right? Nothing gonna happen, no transformation happen. But if we have this dissolution and recognition, at least a glimpse into this resting, so with emptiness, it will become a mirror of the enlightened mind. That's one thing important. Vajrayāna method rests on understanding that mind and all phenomena are empty of inherent existence. Remember that one we are studying? This was kind of carried from the sutra studies, sutra teaching. But in Vajrayāna, we don't do analysis or those things. We already done that at the sutra level or different class. Then here we are trying to recognize it. We are trying to embody it. Because the mind is open and empty, fluid, not fixed, so it can be reshaped, like purified and recognized in its natural state. If mind is not empty, there's no recognition of emptiness, it's impossible, no matter how much we are trying to change or transform. That makes sense. That number one, importance of the view of emptiness. Then I already mentioned the nature of mind, recognizing the subtlest mind. Then transmission and empowerment, going into this authenticity And it's important because we need to establish a living energetic connection to the lineage and the deities. Teacher awakens students' own seed, you can say, of recognition. Empowerment, plant the seed of the deity and give permission, Now another empowerment is coming. This is the opportunity for both of you and the teacher to make connections. Then Rune, the oral transmission, energizes the practice text and the mantra for it to become effective. Then the T is the instructions or commentaries, tells you how to practice. We need to know how to practice, right? That's the idea. Without these three, empowerment, transmission, and commentary, Vajrayāna method, not so effective, don't activate it. Then we also talked about the sacred imagination, this visualizing. The mind shapes the reality through repetition and the imagination. Then a subtle body practices we talked about. So that's actually important component. We talked about this deepest habit and emotional patterns live in the subtle body. The Vajrayāna practice, sadhana practice, works on the energetic level, not only course level, conceptual level. That's also important. We have mind training in sutra teaching, but now we are going to subtle level to remove the subtle obscuration. For example, breath retention, birth breathing, gather the winds into the central channel, and this creates clarity, bliss, and non-conceptual awarenesses. You already experienced even mantra recitation. We are reciting this holy mantra, holy phone numbers, connecting with the deities. These kind of things affect on the subtle body. Then, of course, the completion stage method reveal the subtlest mind, clear light. This is where transformation becomes embodied. The combination of generation and completion stage. In the Vajrayogini practice, long sadhana, for example, is combining both. We also have a completion stage elements. And at our level, try to get used to this so that the sadhana practice become a more embodied practice and integrated practice, not just conceptual level we are working on.
I love this thread, this topic of sadhana as a subtle body practice. For me, especially like with the melodies, learning the melodies, and then after you learn the melodies, then, oh, now I know the melodies. And I love the language of like, oh, the melodies they're starting to seep into my bones. There's something about that image of the Dharma, the truth, like seeping into your bones. So I very much have this image in my mind that, oh, the singing, it's purifying the subtle body. Or I think I've heard you use the language of it's like untying, loosening the knots in the subtle body. The singing and the ringing the bell, it's loosening and untying the knots in the subtle body, the heart chakra, and like playing the Dhammaru. I just love it.
Yeah, very good point. So that's another maybe important elements to point out. In Vajrayāna, the sadhana practice, we use multiple layers of consciousness, multiple layers of whole beings. We are not only conceptual. We have a subtle body. We have an energetic and non-dual kind of aspect, right? So we operate on all different levels. So we use the chanting, mantra, and the mudra. Even I created like this. There can be a body movement, mudra, and then visualization, imagination, and energetic body, kind of subtle body imagination, and also specific energy body work. Those things are very powerful escalators. Escalators. Shoo! Not just sitting and doing just sutra levels is so difficult. But in Tantra, once we enter Tantra, we use whole beings. Whatever available we have method. That allows this path swift, rapid method. So this is a very important. So that's another one. And the union of wisdom and method, I was repeatedly talking about. Vajrayāna use every aspect of human experience. So union is the body, speech, and mind, the emotion, desire as a fuel for awakening. So nothing to be wasted. In Vajrayāna, there's no word for waste. We take it all. Negative emotions even become wisdom through recognitions. Desire becomes the bliss, emptiness, union, opportunity for transformation. The ordinary life, day-to-day ordinary, we think this ordinary same old life become the mandala and become the sacred playground, you can say. That's very important. Something like that. I listed maybe 8 points. The view of emptiness, nature of mind, subtlest mind, luminosity, clear light, transmission and empowerment. Number 3. Number 4, sacred imagination as a deity yoga. Number 5, subtle body practice, channel wind drops. Then number 6, guru or teacher-student relationship. 7 could be a tantric union of wisdom and emptiness. Then finally, this rabbit method of using everything, multiple layers of consciousness.
It's the 3 kayas, the nirmana kaya, sambhoga kaya, and the
Yeah, definitely.
Dhammakaya, like moving between those kayas.
Yeah, definitely that is the core, you can say, the pillars or bones of the sadhana practice structure. The reason we bring the 3 kaya practice is we are transforming our ordinary life into Buddha's life, you can say, Buddha's body. We have an ordinary life, right? We are born, live a life, then we die, then again, maybe into bardo, then come and live on again. We have been doing those things. Even one day, we have that cycle. Wake up, spend the day, whatever that day might be, then going to sleep or sleep, then dreaming or this bardo state, then wake up again, and like this cycle. Again, this is a part of this transforming the everything into this sacred holy thing. We are transforming the ordinary death or ordinary sleep, you can say falling sleep, into Dharmakaya, truth body, ordinary bardo, maybe dreaming state during the sleep. We transform that into the Sambhogakaya, enjoyment body of the Buddha. Then waking up, or the ordinary rebirth, as a Nirmanakaya, Buddha's manifestation body, as a Vajrayogini in this case. So even every day, we do like that, right? We have a fast sleeping yoga, and the waking yoga, and tasting nectar yoga. All those things should be integrated. We are practicing every day, transforming every day-to-day life, ordinary life, into the sacred life, you can say. Namura